Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. This is Dropping Facts with Dr. Jax. I'm so glad you're here to join us today because we have a special guest star. This is Dana Katz, and she is a lymphedema specialist. And I'm going to have her explain exactly what that is, what she does, because I think this is an element of our health that is super critical and very underserved in the conventional medical model. A lot of you out there have been a party of the conventional medical model, myself as well. Like, I'm a consumer of medicine also. And I think that they do the best they can with the tools they've been given and what they've been taught.
It's true.
So we think about internal organs. As physicians, we're kind of taught, like, what's the thing that's going to kill you and what's the thing that's most common. And so we work on what's called a differential of all the things that I think are going on with you based on if it's going to kill you, that is the most urgent thing I need to rule out. So heart attacks, ruptured appendix, gallbladder infection, diverticulitis. These are things that can kill you. So those are legit medical concerns right now today. When I decide then that it's not that thing, then we decide what is the most common thing. Okay, so the most common would be like a common cold, or you're not having a heart attack, you're actually having some reflux. And so here's your Pepcid, go home, call your regular doctor, you're not dying today, right? So while there's absolutely a role for that, we're sort of ignoring a large, vast network that is in our systems intrinsically to allow us the ability to detoxify and cleanse our bodies. And that's what Dana has taken on as her life work, which is fascinating and so critically important to your overall health. So can you tell us a little bit about, first, what is lymphedema? What is this thing?
Lymphedema is when the lymph nodes don't work properly in our body. What happens is it's our water drainage system. That's really what I like to call it in layman terms. And we have over 700 and something lymph nodes throughout our body. It's like a giant net, and it's superficial. It's right underneath the skin. And a lot of times it's overseen. It's an afterthought by doctors. And sometimes when our body is damaged, whether it's from circulation, it could be heart disease, it could be
surgery,
cancer, surgery. Maybe we had an injury 20 years ago. Maybe it's from breast cancer or radiation treatment. So what happens is the lymph nodes get damaged, and when they're kind of like the headquarters of the lymphatic system. So when they're damaged, it creates a blockage, so the water cannot flow properly. Now, it's not just water, it's made up of lymph, which fights toxins in your body, and also protein. It's like a clogged drain, really, is what I like to tell patients. So basically, it's like a slow clog on a sink. Part of the water stays, it acclimates in that part of the body, whether it's legs or arms or trunks, and then the rest slowly goes through the body. It's not a life-threatening disease, but it can create life-threatening infections like cellulitis. So there's no cure, but there is a lot we can do through management that a lot of people don't know about, and I really would like to get that out. I think it's still underserved, and I think it's a really important area, and I know a lot of clients and patients suffer from it.
Yeah, definitely. So what drew you to this? Like, because it's okay. So when I grew up, there were 3 jobs. There was lawyer, because my dad was a lawyer. There was teacher, because my mom was a teacher. And there was doctor, because that's what I wanted to be. So there were 3 jobs on the whole planet. And then as I've obviously grown, it's like a 4-year-old mindset, right? You find that there's so many different applications for our passions and our services in our lives.
It's true.
And I think when you find that thing, then you should be drawn to it, right? And then you build on it, become an expert in that field so that you can actually be lucrative with it and hopefully support your family. But lymphatics, kind of, again, very obscure. It's not like somebody's talking about this, thumping a Bible about it in medical school. Like, we're not. So how did you come upon this?
I'm an occupational therapist by trade, and I always wanted to specialize. And one day I just went to observe in a clinic about 16 years ago. I've been a therapist for over 20 years, and I found it fascinating because I saw results. And that's what I like. And I felt like it really affects so many people. People don't come forward when they see their doctors. They don't ask about the swelling, the physicians, or just people in general. And they're suffering, internally, whether it's a head and neck cancer patient, whether it's someone who has sinus issues, internally they're suffering. And maybe their clothes don't fit them right, or maybe their legs feel heavy, or they can't breathe very well because of their lymphatic system. It creates swelling. So that's why I got into it. I felt like I could really see results, and I was happy seeing it. It's very rewarding seeing clients being able to live their life. And that's why I got into it.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. And I think that we as medical providers in whichever capacity, my occupational therapist, my speech therapist, acupuncturist, we are dopamine junkies. Guys, we love that pleasure of making somebody feel better, somehow helping them to facilitate their whole health. We're just like, whoa, dopamine hit. I want to do that again.
I enjoy that too. Like it makes me feel so good that I'm helping people. That makes them feel good.
Yes, and
if I can make an impact.
Yes, part of the reason I actually did not go into GYN oncology, because unfortunately, when you're dealing with things like ovarian cancer, you've got a 50% mortality rate. And that's tough. And these were wonderful, beautiful spirit women. Like they're just the most beautiful women. Right. And then you lose them. And you lose another one, and I'm like, I can't do this, so to have that thrill of like bringing forth life, that's where I was drawn to the OB aspect. Right. And then now as I've matured in my practice, it's interesting you said that you were about 4 years in. I think that, again, this is where we get on the tangents, I warned you. So I think it takes about 3 good solid years out in practice. Now, whether this is as a new receptionist at your job, in a new corporate position, in the medical field, you got to get some clinical experience under your feet to really figure it out. It's apart from just, do I remember my logins and where did you put the, the file on Google Docs? It's different than that. It's something about, okay, now I'm in my rhythm. Now I've got this. And that's kind of when I started expanding out in my personal growth as a provider. And I started to feel like in that conventional medical model where I'm seeing 40 patients a day, and I had about, I think the average is about 7 minutes per patient encounter, which is followed by probably at least 30 minutes of, computer work, putting in orders, making sure things are coded right, blah, blah, blah. I was like, there's got to be more than this. Women are more than just their fundal height. Women are more than just their postmenopausal vaginal exam. We need to have a more whole approach, because they're in that human, that whole human is psychological issues, life changes. My kid's on drugs. I'm getting divorced. I found out my husband's cheating on me. I'm in the dating scene again. I mean, we're so dynamic, and it affects our physical health. And as you said, most doctors don't comment on that unilateral swelling or bilateral swelling. They're just, peripheral vascular disease. Let's just work on your blood pressure. Sorry. Hope that gets better. If you get an ulcer, we'll just do some wound care. And it's, I think that it's so much more than that. We each are. And I think that in that conventional medical setting, there's not an opportunity to explore those things. So not just that doctors don't ask about it. I think also we're not permitted in that setting. I don't know how many of you out there, make sure you comment below if you've ever been told this is your annual exam, you don't get any questions today. Have you been told that?
I haven't been told that.
Okay, I'm glad you haven't. I remember my medical assistants. My medical assistants would tell my patients that, because if you have a problem, i.e. a question, it gets billed differently to insurance. So it is now no longer a wellness annual exam. It is a problem-focused visit. So it gets billed differently. So you're actually not supposed to ask any questions on those exams. And I'm like, well, isn't that what the annual exam is for? I've been saving up all of my issues for a year so I could come and see you, so that I can have not like you're just going to lay hands on me and send me out the door. Like, it was such a ridiculous concept, but unfortunately that's kind of how our newer providers are being trained. And so it's not conducive to exploring kind of
Mhm.
what is going on
Mhm.
with your whole system.
Right.
Why is that leg not draining? Why
Mhm.
is your arm swollen? Was it from that breast cancer lymph node
Mhm.
dissection? Was it a trauma that you had? Did you
Right.
break your humerus when you were a kid?
Right.
What is the impairment? Or again, like we were just talking about the phase 2 detoxification pathways, like SIRS,
Right.
Fibromyalgia patients, rheumatoid arthritis patients, other autoimmune dysfunctions. The lymphatic tissue is hugely immunologically invested.
Right.
Like it's very
Right.
immunologically
Right.
active. And it's so critical to have that good flow. So we're getting like this river
Right.
instead of a swamp.
Right.
And I think that's where people end up in
Right.
trouble for sure.
I agree with you. You know, it's really a holistic approach. You know, I see plenty of women, I see some men, you know, I see veterans, but the women, there's psychological impact, there's physical impact,
Mm-hmm.
so many areas. And, you know, and a lot of them aren't educated or even aware
Correct.
that there is some kind of treatment, and they're just forced to kind of live this life.
Yeah.
So when they come upon it, you know, it opens the doors,
Yeah,
you know, for
absolutely.
major improvements in their life.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that, you know, not to go too far down the rabbit hole of the misogynistic,
Right.
patriarchal nature of all medical society, right? I think that just traditionally as a culture, it tends to be more acceptable. Go
Mhm.
ahead, blast me in the comments. I don't care. But it's more acceptable to tell women, you know what, just go home, sleep it off, stay on the couch, elevate your feet.
Yes.
You know, tell the husband to help you with the kids. Like
Right.
these are comments that
Yes.
women are subjected to on the regular. Now,
Mhm.
I have been a professional my entire adult life. I've been working since I was 15. I'm grinding it out. There is
Mhm.
absolutely zero capacity for me to just sit on the couch,
Right.
wait it out, take a couple of Tylenol and hope for the best. And then
Right.
when you're in a
Right.
chronic setting where this is an ongoing
Mhm.
medical issue,
Yeah.
and you're sort of just being relegated to the couch and hope, that's not really
No,
proactive management. Now, if
it's
you
not.
told me, hey, this is, so I'm going through surgery in a month.
Right.
And so, yeah, you're going to tell me, you know what, it's going to be a few weeks recovery. All right. Yeah. I mean, I can wrap my head around sitting on that couch for 3 weeks.
Right.
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 But if you were to just say this is indefinite,
Right.
the psychological impact of
Yeah.
that, the financial earning capacity of that, the impact of me being able to be there for my children to show up to their games, the impact of me being able to be a productive, independent member of society, that if heaven forbid something happens to my spouse and there isn't a paycheck coming in that I can rely on, that I'm able to independently support myself instead of just hoping for the best on the couch.
Right.
It's not appropriate medical advice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To be able to just tell patients, well, what do you expect?
Right.
This is all we have to
Right.
offer, when there's this whole other avenue. And now you have the ability to have this information. You're armed with it. You have a resource now. You could even just Google lymphedema therapy in my area, lymphatic drainage in my area, right? If you're in Tennessee, if you're in, you know, Georgia, if you're wherever. Sorry, those states are on my mind right now because the hurricane, for sure, they've been in the news. So to that end, because we're stuck in a conventional medical model, the vast majority of us, and we have 7 minutes to discuss with our providers, I think this is where we get into the nuances of insurance coverage. What does that mean? And I think I often relate it back to car insurance. We're all required to have car insurance here in California. I don't know, is that a national thing now? I don't know, Mads, do you know? I know in California you're required to have car insurance in order to get behind the wheel and put your car on the road. Okay, makes sense.
Right.
But when I need my tires changed, I don't call car insurance. I don't want to call my car insurance, quite frankly, because they're going to give me the cheapest, just wonky, janky kind of tires. It is not, no, I'm actually calling Maddie's dad over at LTW. He's going to hook me up with a great set of tires. You got that? You got that commercial? I'm not being supported by this. I'll let you know that, but we should be. So I'm going to call the guy who knows how to do tires, and I'm not going to rely on my insurance company to pay for that. Same thing with my brakes. I don't want some janky, used, refurbished brakes, whatever. How many of you turned in your phone through your phone insurance, right? Like through the major suppliers, right? AT&T, Verizon, whatever. Like, well, we can give you a refurbished phone. Well, you've gotten somebody else's phone who may have thrown their phone down the flight of stairs because they were pissed at their 12-year-old Not that that would have happened in my household at all,
Right.
but so I don't want somebody else's mistake. I don't want somebody else's accident. So I go outside of insurance to cover these basic maintenance things, to do it at the caliber that I would like to. Now, I don't need to spend $3,000 on a new set of tires, but if I want to, then certainly my God-given right to do so. I can decide to get janky bicycle tires for my Jeep, like that's fine. But it's my decision, and I'm empowered to be able to make that decision rather than relying on somebody else's advice and decision making in a 7-minute time span and hoping that I'm getting the best quality of care, right?
Exactly.
So how do you deal with insurance, reimbursements, that sort of thing?
Well, first I want to say, your health, it's very valuable, and it's a value. So like Dr. Salmons is saying, you want to invest in your health. Okay. And if you're going to feel better, it's worth it. Now, when it comes to insurance, what I do is I provide a super bill. So it goes out of network. A lot of insurances will pay out of network. You would have to check with your insurance provider. A lot of people end up going to hospital locations. It is very different than one-on-one lymphedema therapy. And I would check with your insurance. That's what I would do. But if you are looking, a lot of times it is private-based practice. I do mobile therapy, so it would be out in network. And
I think that's great. And I think that that's so key, right? So you could call up Miss Dana and you could say, what are my billable codes? So I can ask insurance, hey, is this a covered code? What is my maximum benefit? What's my reimbursement? What are your rates? This sort of thing. So that you can then calculate out what is the value proposition there, right? But at the end of the day, again, I think that it is a large investment for your overall whole wellness. I love my insurance when I need a prescription. I love my insurance when I just need an annual exam, just real quick, like just get it done. That's fine. When I need lab work, yep, great, to put it through insurance. But when I really want to feel optimized, when I want to feel on point, I'm going to be paying for those services, because therein lies the ability for us to take that whole time, get the full history, give you a full therapy, and be able to launch you towards, again, that empowerment for your own health responsibility to say, I can make myself better. My body is equipped with the ability to do so. And so, yes, I need to pay somebody to have those resources to facilitate my body's own ability to do this, particularly for those of us who have an impairment, such as an autoimmune disorder, SIRS, again, detoxification issues, chronic sinusitis, mucosal issues, gut health, and so forth. These are kind of nuanced aspects of health that then trickle down towards, cancer, cellulitis, diabetes, IBS, diverticulitis that maybe could have been prevented had we treated it 6 steps ago with some lymphatic drainage or other modalities.
And I agree with what you're saying. And you want a certified lymphedema therapist, and you want someone with a medical background. I think it's very important to have that when you are looking for a therapist, because there are a lot of contraindications, and they know more about the body. So that's really important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is different than going to a general massage therapist. I love massage therapists. I think they're fantastic. I love energy work. I love all of those things. It's fantastic. I think they all have a role. But this is very different than what you would get at maybe a commercial massage salon. How does it differ?
It differs because, well, number one, you need a certification, but it's a very light, gentle massage. And, I've spoken to clients in the past and patients, and sometimes they're like, but it hurts. Lymphatic massage should never hurt. It's very gentle. And a lot of clients feel different even after the one session. So that's something you definitely want to keep in mind. It should never hurt. It should feel great. And it is different than going to your commercial store front. It's a different type of massage. And what we're doing is we're pushing the fluid from a greater area to a lesser region. Okay. And it's a very light massage. It feels nice.
Yeah. I oftentimes tell patients about osteopathic therapy, which incorporates some lymphatic drainage, but it's not like my all-time single jam, right? So But I'm always like, this is the worst massage you're ever going to get, but it's amazing because you're actually manipulating the tissues and moving them back into a functional form. So we're actually replacing those tissues and ligaments, but it's not a great massage. If you're looking for like a relaxing massage, please go to your local friendly massage therapist. But when it's something that's really medically oriented and we're actually manipulating tissues and, again, physiologic structures that are in the body and incorporating them back into play.
We're opening up those lymph nodes.
Opening up those channels. Yeah. Absolutely. And so I think it's a very different sensation. Now, what about the detox? So I've had pretty, like, girl, I feel like people can like dig into my back. Like, right. But then I feel sick for like a day and a half and I get like nauseous and I'm stomach cramping and I'm sweating. Like, it's horrible because it's really releasing toxins, which is good. But for those of us who suck at detoxifying, then we have two options. We either get rid of the toxins or the toxins go right back into the tissues where they started and then we're back where we began. Do your patients experience some of that detox kind of aftermath?
They don't. I mean, I would say they progress. I mean, there's so many other factors involved. There's a lot of variables, like movement. It's really important to move also. And then it's difficult for patients to move because maybe their limbs are heavy or it hurts. So it's really a combination of a lot of different factors. Diet too. You know, sometimes sodium has something to do with that.
And in this case, I would agree. So I think you guys have heard me rant before about sodium versus sugar. And I think that sugar is the vast majority of the culprit. We can move the political ramifications of why that is, lobbying and industries and so forth in the United States. Let's talk about it. It's so exciting. That said, though, in this instance, I think that sodium balance, right? Not just sodium intake per se, but I think that has a large role to it. But it has to do with vessel integrity. It has to do with cellular sodium calcium channels and how they're moving things across the cell membrane or not. And so that's going to get us hypertrophied cells. It's going to get us blocked lymphatic channels and that congestion. So yeah, certainly in this instance, I think sodium intake makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah. And then compression too. It's really a combination of everything. You know, it just really depends on the person. You know, I do strictly lymphatic massage, you know, whether it's for sinuses or allergies. It really depends on what you're treating in the body. You know, if you're working with a woman who has had breast cancer radiation treatment, then we're working on decongesting everything, you know, the trunk, or opening up those lymph nodes, you know, and really lymphatic massage, it relieves pain for a lot of patients with fibromyalgia and also RSD. And then you have clients also who have lymphedema or lipedema combined.
I have it. I was so excited to learn about it. I'm like, these are my people. I didn't know there's actually
combined
my people
with lymphedema because you know, and that's another area altogether, but it's becoming more well known. And I think education is super important. In lymphatic massage, we treat it the same way because those fatty tissues block the lymph from flowing correctly.
And I think that that's important to work with a professional who understands the nuances of this, because I didn't know, like, I am a full actual real life doctor, no idea anything about lipedema. I just knew that my ankles are always swollen and puffy. I was told I was good German stock. It's great, but I can't wear strappy sandals. So, you know, but to understand that it's actually a medical condition, it is recognized. And then what are my expectations, right? Am I going to go get liposuction of my ankles? Man, because it's an overall condition that's going to probably recur. So it's not reasonable then for a provider to then counsel me accordingly and say, oh, girl, you're going to have great results with this. No, I'm not. I'm going to spend a lot of money. I'm going to be disappointed in the outcome. And there's other therapies that then are more effectual in what we really want, which is functionality as opposed to the cosmesis of it. And then are you finding that your patients are more mobile and active after they get their lymphatic
absolutely
drainage?
I mean, absolutely, it makes a huge difference. I mean, and that's again why I got into it. I feel like I'm really helping clients and patients, and it's improving their life. They're able to, you know, do things that they weren't able to do, whether it's driving, you know, or, you know, enjoying hobbies and leisure activities in the community,
Yes.
even simple everyday tasks like getting themselves dressed.
Yes.
It relieves a lot of pain
And
and
you honestly,
increases
like,
their movement.
you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
You can't. So I just treated my aunt with some PRP and some stem cells, well, ozone and some stem cells in her knee and her shoulder. And she's like, I could take out the trash without being in pain and without using my walker. And for those of us who are fully mobile, it's really hard for me to conceptualize like moving those big trash bins that we all have now, getting it up on the wheels while using a walker. Okay, so fine, I get my trash bin, I can kind of use it as a walker getting out to the curb, and how am I going to get back to my walker at the top of the driveway? You really don't think about that. But again, who are you paying to do this? So the cost of a caregiver on a day-to-day basis, for example, if you compare that to the cost of doing an hour a week or what have you for lymphatic drainage, what is the frequency of lymphatic drainage?
Lymphatic drainage, I mean, mostly recommended for most clients would be 3 times a week. That would be ideal. You know, and if someone has severe lymphedema, I would even say 5 days a week. But a lot of clients can't get to, you know, they don't have access
mobility,
to do that,
transportation.
you know. So, you know, I treat them 3 times a week. Sometimes it's twice. I think something's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
I think education is huge. So not only do I do lymphatic massage and get their swelling down, I also teach them how to maintain it and keep it down.
Yes.
So that they don't have to spend more money financially in the future as well.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it.
And I think that's the empowerment of provider or of patients that I enjoy in my practice, is you understanding your physiology better allows you to continue to be at the helm of your health. And then you reach out to your variety of tools as you need to. Now, whether that's a medication, whether it's a supplement, whether it's a therapy, I know when I need that thing because I can feel, I can sense my body. It's a beautiful being and it's telling me when I'm having a problem that I need to add this in. And as you become more adept at understanding how to use the tools in your toolbox, you're going to be an amazing, amazing contractor. And again, being in charge of this vessel rather than having it be in charge of you and kind of relegating you back to the couch when you knew you had 14 things to do today.
Right. Yeah. You know, I think it really improves patients' lives. I really do.
Yeah.
And
that's what we're all here for. You know, it's
education,
it's that dopamine
awareness,
reward of like, I made Mrs. Smith feel so much better and she's walking now. And it's like, yes,
absolutely.
I hope to do that. It's really cool.
It is.
Well, I appreciate your time. What's really cool, stay tuned in upcoming episodes or maybe right after this. I don't know what Mads the Magician is going to do. She's going to put it all together. But we will also see Dana in her element. She's going to work on us. So we're going to give you some clips so you can really visualize what lymphatic drainage is about, how it differs from conventional massage therapy, and if it can benefit you. We'll leave her contact information below in the description as well, so you can reach out to her. And then even if you're not in our area, again, if you're in New Mexico, there may be some network that we can then tap into to allow you for resources in those areas as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. Thanks for being here.